Welcome to My Therapist is Out. Each episode, we talk with a therapist from Open Space Therapy Collective or LGBT community members about mental health and building community. I'm your host, Renae Johnson, licensed therapist and founder of Open Space Therapy Collective, where we are your hub for queer and trans mental health care. As we dive into today's topic, please keep in mind that this is a mental health podcast. We will talk about sensitive and difficult issues that are not appropriate for all audiences. Please take care while listening. Welcome back to My Therapist is Out. We are still on our break between our two series. We are just wrapping up the Neurodiversity series, and we'll be jumping into how to have queer, healthy relationships when you've only seen toxic ones. And in the meantime, Mikey Whited, Psych NP, is back to talk more about neurodiversity and answer some of your questions. Thanks for coming back again.
Thanks for having me back.
Okay, let's just dive right in. So we have some daily life and functioning questions. What are some realistic strategies for managing executive dysfunction when even basic tasks feel impossible?
So the first thing I would do is also is figuring out what it is that's not working can be really helpful. I'm not doing the dishes. Is it because I'm forgetting to do them? Is it because I started doing them and walked away? Is it because, identifying which part is where the breakdown's happening is, and then you can kind of tailor your strategies to that. Like I used to, I thought this on the podcast, was like years, just never had my keys, always late, until I was like, I could put a nail next to the door, hang my keys there. That took me a year or so to train myself that that's what I'm doing. But now that's every time I come in, first thing I do, because that was a big problem and I found a way to address it. So it's kind of like figuring out where our breakdown is. I will say I've heard a lot of different strategies over the years. Some of them are and none of them will work for everybody. It's just something you can just kind of.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. But I think one of my favorites was one of the books that we recommended from the podcast, but it was an example of somebody to get their kitchen to do the dishes at night, pretended to be a secret agent, had to cover up the murder scene, and it really worked for them. And I was like, I wish that worked for me. Mm-hmm. But that's why I'm not a spy, because I don't care. The other thing is, sometimes I actually just had friends come over a couple days ago, and they're like, oh, well, we'd love to go to your, my place happens to be the bigger of everything. They're like, oh, you've been hosting more. And I was like, actually, I really like hosting because I will clean my house if there are people coming, which is kind of, it's not necessarily an official strategy. It's been kind of an Instagram joke of if you want to help your ADHD friend out, just call them and tell them you're coming over and their house will suddenly be clean. It works.
It works.
They should probably consent to that first, but
yes,
it very much works.
Yeah. There's also something that's been coming up. Being an AFAB person now in my 40s, for a lot of my AFAB friends is perimenopause and neurodivergence really butt heads. So if you were somebody who is neurodivergent and you are AFAB and you are 35 and up and you're noticing changes or depleted or you're having a harder time focusing or you're getting feedback that you're doing things the right way for a while, and then all of a sudden you kind of glitch out and start messing everything up out of nowhere. Whatever it is, it may be that you're starting to have perimenopausal symptoms, and that's messing with your hormones, which really play into how our brains function and how neurodivergence functions and all of that. So it might be time to go see a doctor.
The other piece of that kind of highlights, especially for neurodivergent stuff, is when your stress level goes up, your symptoms go up. And even with hormones are kind of this invisible stressor that you don't really know about, but also kind of acknowledging that sometimes my strategy was working for all this time and now it's not. It may not be the strategy that's broken. It may be that you're under too much stress to do it. Be that physiological, as in perimenopause stuff, or you're starting to get sick. For me, I'm don't always notice physical symptoms when I'm starting to get sick, but I am not functioning like I normally do. And, it's kind of identifying whoa, what's off right now? Maybe we need to switch up our strategies.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. How do I advocate for myself in the workplace or school without fear of stigma or discrimination?
I wish that was an easy one.
Yeah. I wish that was possible.
Right. I will say that given that like a lot of ACA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, is what gave a lot of our like workplace protections, which is definitely under attack right now. I will say most places that I've worked, at least, especially if because if you have an official diagnosis, it is much easier to advocate for yourself. It's crappy, but it's true. I mean, my sister talked about that when we on the podcast a little bit. Was like, like didn't get a diagnosis for a long time because it didn't seem to matter. But in a situation where it's like, oh no, I need my experience to be validated. Sadly, is when it drives a lot of people to finally get their diagnosis. But that is a really great way to kind of come at it and be like, hey, I've already started dealing with this. I mean, I've been obviously dealing with this in my life, but like I am actively working on this and I would like help with X, Y, or Z. My current job, they just moved me to an open floor plan office, which is just a nightmare for my brain. We don't get anything done there. I know what's happening with everybody in my office. And what they were asking, like, well, the accommodations that I needed, I was like, I need to go home and do my work. I'm going to be in the office and I'm going to, I do what I got to do. But it also was kind of understood that, like, I was like, yeah, like, I need to block out a couple hours of my day for work that aren't in this office because this office does not work for me in any way, shape, or form. And I'm lucky enough that I can do that at my job. But for other jobs I've had them like block out my schedule, even in a clinic, to be like, hey, I need set time for whatever it is I'm struggling with. And most settings, especially workplace settings, they hired you for a reason, and you're trying to get stuff done. And that's a really like also kind of collaborative way to involve your coworkers, bosses, whatever, is to be like, hey, we both want this stuff to get done. I want it to get done. You want it to get done. What's the most effective way for us to get there?
That framing is so important because I think a lot of people, when they're first starting to advocate, forget to mention, oh, I'm trying to get something done, and just come at a way of, I can't do this. And so how that reads to employers or teachers is, oh, this person is trying to get out of doing a thing.
Right.
And so when you are asking for an accommodation, you need to couch it in, can I have more time to take this test, or can I do it in a quiet room? Can I go home to a quiet space so I can get this documentation done, or whatever the thing is, so you can get it done to the expectation of whatever your job, school thing is. Because when you don't start with that, it's not going to land for the person as you're collaborating with them to get the work thing done.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely had some very negative experiences over the years, different situations. I had one job, I was talking to human resources. I was asking for what we call admin time in my schedule, so I can do administrative tasks because they weren't getting done. And her response was, well, no one's complained about you yet. And my response to her was, I would like that to continue to be true. So before someone starts complaining, I already know this is going down. That one I had to actually push back pretty forcefully for. But I also had my diagnosis. I had the ACE. I knew about Americans with Disabilities Act, and I knew my rights, and I was willing to ask for them because I was literally going insane. I kind of put it to them. I was like, well, would you rather have me see X number of people and be able to bill for seeing those people? Or would you just like me to see the people? Because I could see the people, but we both want me to get my documentation done. This is what I need to get my documentation done in a timely manner.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. What are signs of burnout for neurodivergent people, and how can I recover from it? I feel like this is the season of burnout.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, symptoms of burnout are still burnout. They're still the same ones, but you're going to, again, when stress goes up, you'll see your symptoms kind of go up. I can tell you, for me, like, my burnout tends to look like, I don't care that I didn't do this thing. I don't see a way that I'm ever going to get it done. So why would I try? That is a really good example of kind of what burnout feels like. It's like there's no fucking point. Why? Like, you know, or like noticing that you're continuously like, I'm going in late every day because I don't feel like I have any battery. I'm not recharging it. Because it's pretty hard to recharge our batteries sometimes right now. And it looks different for neurodivergent people. Like for me, a really good battery recharge for me is like going mountain biking or snowboarding. Like it does not sound relaxing to anybody else. But for me, that is the best thing ever because afterwards I feel great and I can kind of dive back in. But a lot of times we'll tend to forget and kind of build up this debt of I already know I don't have a battery, but push on. I'll have another coffee. I'll have another whatever, and kind of push yourself to do it. And especially for neurodivergent people, you're gonna just like I said, your symptoms will seem more pronounced.
Even in how you're relating to other people. Like if you think relationships have changed, or I think you're finding that you're taking things more personally, or that people are demanding more of you or expecting more of you, or you're struggling with change, or all of these things that start to get outside of the relationship with somebody and into a global, more general, well, things feel different, or there's a lot of change, or any of this generalization is typically like okay, we're burned out on a human level, and we're externalizing it fully on what's happening around us, whether that's work or relationships or whatever. And so stepping back and be like, okay, what is concretely happening? How am I feeling? What do I need to do? And figuring out what those things are that recharge you are exactly it.
That are actually recharging you, not you thinking they recharge you. Because I used to be a big believer in, well, I gotta go party to feel better. And I'm not gonna say I didn't enjoy the party, but I didn't realize that wasn't actually reset. Like going and hanging out with friends, yes. Having too many drinks, no. And it's kind of that interplay is like having to check. Like that was something that, I mean, for me, when I went to nursing school, was when I got a lot of education, and that I have an end. Like I have a limit. There's no more can happen after X, Y, or Z. And I realized that because I then was messing up things, and I was like, wow, I'm messing up personal relationships. I'm messing up some of my work stuff. Like, what's happening? You've hit your limit. You don't have any more to give. And especially with also in the ADHD neurodivergence, you might be burned out, but you might act out more, or you might really, again, the symptomology might just kind of tick up. And what that might look like is like, okay, I'm burned out. I'm hyper all the time. And you may look like you have tons of energy, but you're getting nothing done because you're spinning your wheels because you're like, I'm stressed and I don't know how to calm down. Also, I think a lot of it is I don't think I have time to set aside to calm down.
Yeah. It's also, I'm just going to harp on this. I know we've said it a few times, but really figuring out what fills you back up. So massages are great, spas are great, naps are great, but that might not do anything. Like those do things for me when I'm on my day-to-day and kind of doing all right. But if I'm at burnout, I actually need to go use power tools, dig a hole, and build something.
Right.
Not do it with somebody else. And I've had partners in the past really struggle with that and be like, this is weird. I don't know why you're doing that. You should really go to the spa. And it's kind of like, well, I'm glad that works for you, but you also have to make sure the people in your life can honor what you need to restore and not be judgy about it.
Especially when we're in burnout is when you see people are going to be like, oh, this isn't you. And like, no, this is me burned out. This is definitely me. I know it's not where I'm normally at because I don't have the capacity to be where I normally am. And you'll probably need to do something outside your norm because whatever you're doing right now led you to burnout. So that's not working. The next thing.
Yes.
Well, it's also really hard it's really hard to see the forest for the trees. And then when you're like, it's one of it's almost always, I think, I mean, we've both been very burned out at different times and had it's more of a, it's a looking back and being like, oh, that's now.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Now what do we do?
Hey, Renae popping in just for a minute to say thank you for listening. We really hope you are enjoying the conversation today. Any chance you have to rate, review, subscribe, and share with a friend makes a huge impact, and we greatly appreciate it. If you have extra bandwidth and want to support the show even further, you can go to mytherapistisout.com and click the donate button. Any donations from $5 a month to a one-time donation makes a huge difference for us. We're a little self-published podcast, so any extra dollar helps. Again, go to mytherapistisout.com and hit donate. Now back to the show. One more about daily life. How can I create a sensory-friendly environment at home that supports my mental health?
I mean, that's up to you, boo. But
Yeah.
it's also like, because you'll know. I mean, there are certain things. I mean, I don't know about you, but I definitely used to try to force myself to do things that I thought that's how we needed to do things. And turned out there is no have to do things. Like, you can do things in all the ways you want. Like, there's certain things that are weird that would make other people be like, that is odd. I'm like, no, that's how it is. That's just it. Like, I'm not compromising on that. I'm sorry, and it's weird for you, but we're not doing that.
Yeah. I think both of us have very particular houses or very interesting homes that have an interesting collection of things as you look into the background of our podcast right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we both are very deliberate in the colors we choose, how we arrange things, where things are, the organizational style, the material things that we have around us, because that's what we need to have everything calm down, have the nervous system calm down, have the brain chill out.
I will say another thing it took me a long time to do is giving myself permission to do that. I have had different partners I've lived with, and it drives them nuts. I had one that was like, his sensory need was that there's nothing on a counter. My sensory need is I can't. I was joking, but I was like, you stole my stuff again. And he's like, what do you mean you stole your stuff? He's like, there. I'm like, it was on the counter right there. He's like, yes, that was on the counter for 3 weeks. So I put it in a drawer. I'm like, which drawer? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, see, you stole it because we don't know where it is anymore. I gave myself permission to do certain things. Like my last apartment, I moved in day one. I removed all of the doors from all the cabinets in the kitchen because object permanence is something I struggle with. That poor ex of mine I just referenced also was someone who really liked things put away and closed. And when I went to go get my teacup, I would open every single drawer and every single cabinet. He's like, but the teacups are always in the same place. I'm like, I can't tell you why, but I had to. So I just it's actually kind of funny right now. I just looked over. I'm like, my kitchen is almost closed. There's one drawer just wide open because my brain likes it there. I want to see my spices.
We have an old friend in San Francisco that got a label maker and labeled every door, cabinet, entryway, storage thing over her whole house. It was very funny because she started doing like a light switch and was being silly about it. But the same is like that object permanence and making sure that she knew where everything was a big part of how to make that work for her.
Again, claiming some space in your relationships to be like, hey, I know this pile of things looks like a mess to you. It is how my brain works. Where does my pile go? Versus I'm not going to pretending that I'm not going to have a pile. That's just not acknowledging reality. There will always be a pile. But is there a place I can put this pile that will not disturb your flow? Is the way to do that. Also, another thing that I find is fantastic is they have clear plastic boxes. And I put things in clear plastic boxes because I can see everything in the box. And it makes it really easy. Also, I have it's kind of like an organized chaos. I'm sitting here next to a pile of things. It looks like it's just kind of thrown there. I know every single layer of everything on that pile because that's how it works for my brain. Kind of like giving yourself the permission to try the weird stuff.
Yeah.
And also try the stuff and sometimes stuff doesn't work.
Yeah. Let's pivot to some healing and identity and self-acceptance stuff. How do I tell the difference between masking to stay safe and masking that harms my mental health?
Well, that's a fine line sometimes, but you can also say, like, is this masking? Well, the big work is figuring out that you're masking.
Mm-hmm.
Step one. And then step two is this masking that I need to do? And how much am I sacrificing by masking this thing? There was a point in my life at which I just started telling everybody. I was like, I have ADHD. This is me. Hi. Because I got to a place where I was like, hey, me masking isn't helping anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I also work in mental health. So it's like a topic that like I can bring up freely. I also know that there's like, people with just certain jobs where like people do not want to hear about that. They do not want that to be the case, and they may have prejudices. And if it's something that's going to stop you from doing something, if your performance is still great, there's a cost benefit with unmasking that sadly can't be undone.
Yeah, because even if you're masking to stay safe, that doesn't mean it's not negatively affecting your mental health.
No.
It's like, okay, am I going to be more negatively affected if I don't mask because I'm not in a safe environment, or if I mask to try and be safer? But then you also need to have an aftercare plan of how am I going to take care of myself because this was rough.
Right. Or like also, like I know I've been masking all day and I can prepare my partner with like, I had a hard day. We're gonna just turn into goo when I walk in the front door. And in my like also like different brains are gonna do it differently. My puddle of goo is very loud. I've been behaving and like working really hard to control myself all day. And my aftercare is just like, like I gotta go do stuff. Yeah, it's just I think there's like the cost benefit way to weigh it out.
Okay. What are some ways to unlearn internalized ableism and shame around being neurodivergent?
Therapy. I mean, it's really
Therapy.
therapy.
This is where we need the rainbow.
It's really hard. But I will say personal experience working with somebody who specializes in like in my case executive functioning, being able to have somebody help you through that process is really helpful. I don't know if I need it as much now, but there's been definitely different points at which it was like outside perspective. You keep trying to make things like you're having this expectation that things are going to go this way and they haven't gone that way. And because your brain doesn't work that way. And we've tried this 9 times. Are you not picking up on the fact that maybe what your expectations aren't matching reality? Like having the safety to acknowledge that things aren't working. It's really important. Yeah. And it takes a safe space to do that in, which is why I kind of brought up you don't have to see a therapist for this necessarily, but if you're also just doing this kind of work on your own is really hard.
It's really hard.
Because the only narrative you have is your own narrative, and you doing this work yourself is also you're in an echo chamber, and it's really hard to hear anything besides yourself.
And you're only going to feed back to yourself the limits of what you're able to do. I know I've had therapists in the past who've been able to name things for me, whether it's neurodiversity or trauma stuff, where like, hey, I hear you doing a lot of thought policing. And I had I know all about thought policing and how it shows up and da-da-da-da. But I had no idea how it had morphed for me. And so to have somebody bring that in and be able to then examine it and sit with it in a process way and not a judgment way, deeply helpful. And there's no way I could have gotten there on my own, regardless of how many podcasts I listen to or books I read or friends I talk to. There's stuff in there that is so internal and specific that oftentimes is only a therapist or coach or specialist that's really going to be able to help. And
yeah, that's the thing is a lot of people buy that self-help book, and that's great. And that's part of the work. That's awesome. It isn't the end of the story. And it's also you can do this maybe with a friend. I mean, in our friend group, we sometimes do this for each other, be like, hey, that's not right. Also, you just said that out loud. Did you hear that? Our friend group is heavily a bunch of mental health people. So it's kind of one of the things that happens, but also that bleeds into my other relationships where other people, where I've gotten more comfortable being like, I may I comment on this first? And then this is like what you said doesn't seem to fit what I know about you. And, but that's also like really hard to do on your own.
All right, next question. How do I support a loved one who is struggling to accept their diagnosis or neurodivergent identity?
Patience is the biggest thing. Because, again, that's their work. It's their work to do. I would maybe in this case be like, are you willing to walk through that with them? It's a big question.
Yeah.
I will say, as somebody who is very neurospicy, the more work I've done going on, like now when I'm dating, I lead with it. I'm like, hey, this is the deal. This is it. It's pretty fun, but also that also means that like there's just I'm not necessarily going to need more help than a typical person in the ways that like some people like look at it and be like, I have to help fix you. That's never helpful. To acknowledge it and be like, hey, like also you can not call it by the same name. I mean, we can call it neurodivergent. I call it neurospicy. Some friends were just like, they have like some negative words for it. But there's more positive ways to describe it. You can't really do that work for them. But especially if you're a patient and you're kind of what we were talking about earlier with like naming that there is something that's disconnecting or not working, and then kind of going from there, because we don't have to call it like you've met some of the people that I've dated who, everyone else in the room is thinking this thing, but we can't move you to that place. You have to move you to that place. And, also highlighting like, hey, I just noticed this thing over and over and over and over.
Also, a lot of positive affirmation goes a long way. Like, because there's so much shame that goes into something, that doesn't mean that there's not a ton of benefits. And the benefits that you love about this person are a part of the neurodiversity as well, right? Like, I've been shocked at myself. I've been able to read these questions out loud. But if we're like reading stuff in a group or doing something at work, I'm not going to be the person that's going to be able to do that. You need a complicated problem to be solved. I can do that because my brain works differently, and so it organizes things differently. And so there's a space of like love and affirm the really great strengths that come out of neurodiversity, and don't shame the parts that are different or can be more complicated or need more care.
Right. There's a reason this person's in your life. There's a reason that you're gravitating towards this person. There's got to be good. Highlight that. And also, but you don't have to ignore the bad stuff. Like you can't, like, I think the worst thing you could possibly do is just ignore that this is happening. That's the worst thing, is to just like, well, we're just going to la, pretend it's not there. The little spark becomes a dumpster fire real fast.
Real fast.
Yeah.
Okay. Last one. What does thriving look like for neurodivergent people beyond just coping or surviving?
Making ADHD walls. There's a lot of fun to be had with it. And so it's getting to that place where you're like, okay, like getting to a place where you can kind of laugh at yourself is not like easy for a lot of people. But, getting to the point where you're like, you know what? I have all this great shit about me. And then there's this other shit. And it's stuff I have to deal with. Okay, moving on. Me personally has been kind of creating a world in which, like, purposely fostering a world in which I have people around me that celebrate the good stuff, that aren't going to harp on the stuff that maybe I'm struggling with. Like, again, everybody has different strengths. And so, I can be really fun and spontaneous. Am I probably going to forget to clean that thing? Yes. We can deal with that as we do. But like also sometimes I'm like, okay, this is something that I really need to do right now, and I can't really explain why, but like I have to go build this thing right now. Just kind of, for me, it's been creating a world in which like I'm not an artist by trade, but I make art all the time because I have fostered lots of friends who are all very different minded people. And that's what we get together and go do. And that's like what thriving has looked like, at least in my case, is kind of leaning into the stuff that I find fun and celebrating that.
It can, you know, as we're talking about all of these strategies and what to do and what not to do, what's on the other side of this is really funny. Like, there are so many times where, as somebody who struggles with word finding, where the wrong word comes out. I think I spent 2 weeks calling you rotund. I still can't think of what word I was trying to find.
I don't know. It's great.
And like, I could sit there and like beat myself up about it, or now I can just call you rotund for the next 6 months and it be really funny. Mm-hmm. And so there's places in here where, like, don't take it so fucking seriously. Like, life is tough enough. If it's stuff that's silly, just let it be silly.
And I think that's something we lose sometimes. Is like, that's the point of the work, is to get to a place where you can laugh at it. Because, I mean, people that work in healthcare, mental health, all that, we all have a rather dark sense of humor often because we have to laugh at it because we're dealing with heavy stuff. Doesn't mean we're not acknowledging the heavy stuff, but there's just really funny things that happen sometimes. That, like, you're like, wow, okay, well, we're here. All right.
Yep. It's happening.
Yeah.
And this really goes back to something that you've been continually hitting on, is like making sure that the friends and community that you are building can do this with you. Because if you're hanging out with people and spending time with people that are really into how they present in public and what people think of them and are all about more of the superficial things, like, that's not going to be a group of people that can support you on a core level. Now, if you find people that are funny and flexible and creative and curious, that's going to be a group of people that's going to be way more down to do the neurospicy wiggles with you and figure out how to do the workarounds with things that need workarounds and laugh at you and with you when you call your very thin friend rotund for 2 weeks.
Well, I was actually going to say there's also the difference of laughing at and laughing with, and finding people that can laugh with you is, and if you've never had it, it's hard to see, and then you find it and you're like, oh, that's the difference. Oh, I recently had done this with like a friend. I was like watching their relationship and I was like, hey, do you notice that joke's not a joke? It's not a funny. It's actually really insulting to you. Thoughts. Also, like, if you've never had relationships where that is celebrated and that is like, and they're like, oh, you're awesome. It's hard to know what that feels like until you start actually like having examples of being like, oh wow, this feels different. You just pointed out something that is definitely a flaw or a mistake, and I'm not feeling bad about it. How'd you do that? Also, being mindful that you're that kind of person too, to be like, hey, there's a thing that, like, okay, I just gotta point out, do you know that there's shit on your face? Because it's been there a while, and if you want it, you can keep it. But like, I'm really digging it. All of us do that for each other. And that's kind of, for me, what I look for in friends is the ones that can kind of laugh with you and go with you and be like, hey, yeah, technically, yeah, you fucked that up. Let's fix it together.
Agreed. Well, thank you for sitting with me again. I always love talking to you. And if you have any other questions about anything neurodivergent, DM us, comment, email us, whatever. You can find us all over. And we're happy to answer those questions for you. And coming up, we have all about relationships, speaking of finding people to laugh with, and what healthy relationships look like and what toxic ones you've experienced and how to break those cycles. We'll have the intro to talk about what's going to come up over the series, what we'll be talking about, the guests that we'll bring on. And if you have any questions about relationships, this is the time to send those questions in, because we will do a Q&A at the end of that series as well. And for now, here is your queer moment of joy.
My name is Cornelius. My pronouns are he, him, his. A moment of pure joy. Beyonce, Renaissance, 2023, drinking my water, minding my business.
Hi, my name is Bro. My pronouns are she and her. And queer joy for me is my cute little house, which is called Gayland. And we are the center of community where everyone comes and loves each other and delights in each other's presence, and everything is okay there. It's wonderful.
Thanks for joining us. If you're in California and looking for a therapist, visit our website at openspacetherapycollective.com and book a free intro call with one of our therapists. If you're enjoying My Therapist Is Out, please rate, review, and follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Do you know somebody who could use a little extra dose of queer community? Send them one of your favorite episodes of My Therapist Is Out and help our collective grow one listen at a time. My Therapist Is Out is an open space therapy collective podcast, and our podcast editing is done by Rachel Peltzer and Smash and Grab Studio. We'd love to hear from you about today's topic, so email us at info@openspacetherapycollective.com. You can find us on TikTok and Instagram at Open Space Therapy Collective. Thanks for listening.